All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Monday afternoon, April 4th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Great to see Norman. We have Yehuda joining us here live inside our trading room. We have Will as well, Lewis, and all of us otherwise rejoining us perhaps coming up here going into the next hour and a half. Great to see all of us, including Leda and Chuck, loud and clear from them, loud and clear from Mike. Perfect. And if you're joining us once again on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back as well. Let's hop right to it. We have the Impp Trade. I just called this out like just a moment ago. I just popped up Benzinga Pro. Not really the best time to be trading, but in advance of this meeting, I wanted to just kind of scan the market first. And I saw Impp, the price at 147. So right away, when I see that price 147, I'm thinking, all right, well, if it's at the highs of the day, that means that there's going to be a resistance ahead, likely 3 cents ahead at 150. So for right now, it's been kind of holding underneath 150. Right now, just about 146 plus thousand shares on the ask. Definitely a lot more once that price level will eventually get tested. But, for right now, easily enough, just Impp, one of those energy stocks we've been, really following over the last month really at this point, right? So we're pretty familiar with it. It's more of a level one stock even for right now. If it ends up breaking higher and popping, perhaps it goes to a 2. But needless to be said, though, the liquidity is pretty filled in on level 3, tight spread. So, this is like the perfect type of stock for any one of us to be following, and perfect for the phase 3 stock course coming up at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So I know that Fausto will be trading this, or at least following it at a minimum with, all of our students there. All right, so Impp goes on our list. I appreciate the link from Rich just inside the chat board there. Let's go right from top to bottom. Otherwise, there was a small little dip on Bitcoin. I'll talk about that briefly at the end. But, we'll go right from top to bottom here. NUTX, nuts, we'll kind of call it. I don't know. This thing just flat right now. Like next to no volume on the order book, not even paper thin. It's like much worse than that even. So we'll kind of skip ahead from this trade. But yeah, that brings us to number 2, the ATER trade. ATER, I wrote down this morning on my notepad. I didn't prep it up as much as I did like the Neo trade or Twitter. Twitter in particular, we'll talk about coming up, not today, but tomorrow inside Traders Talk. We'll do a small review on that stock just in a moment. But Twitter will be a nice stock to go over in full from A to Z inside our Traders Talk workshop. That's for all of us live inside the Cyber Group room, at least for tomorrow morning. But, ATER at least one as well that ended up making a great pop after the market opened up. It wasn't one as much that we were following from pre-market, but man, as soon as the market opened up, we were calling it out from there. Ended up giving us, a lot more than we had even anticipated. Ended up leaving money on the table on this type of trade, but ended up taking off from like 250 all the way up towards just about 350, and then obviously broke higher. So, it's still pretty close to the highs right now. Hopefully, it gets that last extra kick it needs heading into the final hour. This one looks good too. ATER. Put this on our list alongside the Impp. All right, one that's not looking too nice right now, the PLX trade. Sheesh, just right now, just tanking. So unless if this really begins to make a good slingshot from here and hold support, I'm just gonna pass on it here. Maybe I'll come back to it if it does make that slingshot, but for right now, let's see what else we got. YVR, nice move from earlier today. Looks like it started to dump off. Volume ended up waning down continuously after that breakout. All right, WVE Wave Life Sciences. Norman called us out just before we started this meeting here. Nice little push. Obviously at the highs, my fear is that this ended up topping off and it's just only going to continue to wane down in volume also like that YVR trade. But for right now, I'll give it a look. Shortable also too if that happens. If this craps out and goes the complete other way, at least on TradeStation, my platform here, this would be shortable, easy to borrow. GBS, this stock, maybe I'm confusing with GBR, but I feel like the stock also has been like the pop and drop type of stock you need to be careful on. Not really the best swing trade clearly over the last year and a half. But, with where it's at right now, if it ends up popping during this meeting again, I'll give it a little bit more of a look. Now, Twitter, though, we all know the news on this trade. If you don't, then, just to say, Elon Musk ended up taking, I think it was like a 9.2 9.26 or 9.76% stake, passive stake, they call it in Twitter. That actually makes him the single largest, I think, shareholder, if I'm not mistaken, or like, in terms of just maybe altogether, but if not altogether, somewhere, some categories ranked like top shareholder. Nonetheless, big news on the stock. You would hope to see a nice run at some point today, and more or less that's what happened. Ended up, shaking around at first after the open. Ended up holding support pretty nicely off the 47 level. That ended up holding in pre-market, but it ended up getting filled. That iceberg order got filled, so there was a concern to see this fail to move off that level and really just kind of slump off and break lower throughout the day. Perhaps the market pushing upward ended up, making a nice, push for Twitter here ultimately, where it bounced off the 47, ended up breaking back over its opening bell print, and from there really slung. So, right now this is pretty much near the highs or at the highs, so to say. So yeah, we'll definitely put this back on our watch list here, the Twitter trade. Watch out for your next resistance. Broke over 51 just now. I'm sure there's going to be some shake or consolidation around 51 here, and if not, makes it easier. But I would assume for the next major level ahead to be off 52. All right, it's back. Jumia. I'll never get the name right on this stock. We do really well on this stock, though. Just if I could zoom out on the daily chart here pretty briefly, just great day trade type of stock here. And in hindsight, you could say it was a great, swing over the last, year or so, back from the end of 2020, heading into 2021. But, I call it a day trade stock because that's easy to say. That's easy to say, to look at a chart and say, oh, that was a good swing trade. What makes it a great day trade is the fact that it has a great range. It trades great volume on that run, and on more days than not, it was easy to borrow. So it was actually a pretty good shortable trade at certain points too. And certainly once it topped off, it ended up like completely dropping like a rock. At that point, easy to say, but it was a great short then too. So this is just a really nice side list stock to follow. We haven't really followed this as much of late. I kind of like categorize this as like Virgin Galactic Space, SPCE, where, over the last month or so, it's been in consolidation. Haven't really called it out as much. Space, they're not like, related, but just to say Space up 5+%, ended up making a nice move itself here this morning. But going back to Jumia, this is pretty close to the highs. I feel like it's making a nice little bounce over the last, 30 or 45 minutes here. So I'll give it a look. I'll put it on the list kind of towards the middle. All right, let's see what else we got. Just a couple cheapies here. The LILM ended up making a pretty nice move from earlier today, even more so heading into the early afternoon. I feel like it's kind of losing its momentum and beginning to kind of pull back a bit, but obviously a lot closer to the highs compared to some of the other stocks we've scanned through so far. And I'll come back to this at the end. I'll definitely come back to this at the end. Just if we have a big list, that's the concern. The TKAT trade, not doing a whole lot right now. We'll pass on it for the afternoon, but nice little pop here throughout the morning, right? All right, the BEKE trade, just kind of skimming through for any other like familiar stocks or sideless stocks. So BEKE, we ended up following this kind of similar to NEO, where it ended up making a nice little dip at the open, but then nice slingshot after. I feel like a lot of the Chinese stocks end up, moving very similar to one another. So we ended up seeing BEKE make this move, NEO make this move, the TME trade make that move too, and a few others. But again, this is kind of making a lower high here heading into the afternoon. You could just see that on the 5-minute chart. So not fully convinced on it for right now. It is shortable, so it is, just a good sideless stock perhaps. Same exact play as IQ. Shake at the open, little slingshot there. Didn't hit 5, but ended up, making the nice sling from the opening bell print. And then PDD, pretty much same pattern where, consolidation at the open, took off shortly after. The lower high kicking in right now. All right, let's see what else we got here so far, folks. We'll jump over to the loser side here in just a second. Just a bunch of other sideless stocks, perhaps you can call them. The Fubo trade, So hour here, the stock ended up making a nice run for us like a few months ago. It's actually making a nice little move here right now. If you take a look at the 5-minute chart, it broke out from like, 1 o'clock Eastern time from 325 or 320-ish, but it's made it like a nice steady trend. It's probably a little choppy, but steady trend up off the lows. Shaking right now a tiny amount, but yeah, let's wait 5 minutes, however long, we have till the end of this meeting. All right, I think that just about does it on the gainer side. No other real familiar names here otherwise. Maybe the SPI trade, but kind of like a pop and drop type of trade here throughout the morning. So I was pretty hopeful on this trade right around the 325, 330-ish area here, but just never ended up making the slingshot after. Held support, but didn't really pop back upward. All right, markets are kind of just at the highs, so I'm not expecting to find a whole lot on the loser side that looks like really good. Whole bunch that looks hard to borrow, so you can't really short them. The Chris trade has been flat most of the day. We'll move up and down at least heading into the afternoon, but I don't know. I mean, it is shortable, so technically you could look to short this should this break below support here off 160, 161. I don't know. You're a little close to ground zero, ground floor. So, even I, like, in terms of looking for a short, I love trying to find like a good short opportunity. And, when a stock's below $5, a lot of traders look to kind of hesitate because they don't want to get squeezed in case if they're wrong. And I would agree with that concern, but I love those opportunities. But when it gets like a little too inexpensive, like $2, $1.50 area here, it skews me out a little bit. So, we don't really have a great need to put this on our watch list for the afternoon, but it is tradable if you want to scalp it for like 5 cents potentially, or maybe 10 cents the most down to 150. But you got to know your worth on a trade like this, I'd say. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. You got to know your worth on pretty much any trade, right? Not just this trade. We have the Greece stock down 7%. It's hard to borrow, but it was a stock from Friday last week that ended up making a huge run. So it looks like it ended up dropping off this morning. Nice little pop here so far across the meeting here across the afternoon, but I don't know. The order book is pretty thin, paper thin now. I would call it here, but maybe tomorrow morning this could be better in play with more volume, more pre-market buying, perhaps at that point. All right, what else we got here, folks? Norman calling out the GGPI trade, and that was probably from a bit earlier, but yeah, it's trying to go. Nice little move here. Good order book also. Wow, I'm actually pretty surprised by that. Consistently tight spread. Tier sizes like fluctuate, but it's pretty filled in level 3. So yeah, this one looks pretty nice. GGPI. All right. Anyone on YouTube or Facebook Live, if you have any other stocks that you would want me to check out or just for me to look at, just type it in the chat board. I think that if not, that means that we're just about good here for a Monday afternoon here, huh? Markets are at the highs. I don't know if there's any other sideless stocks at the highs here, like airlines or cruise lines or casino stocks or what. But American Airlines at the high, but it's like really dead flat. CCL not technically at the high of the day. Looks like it tanked at the open, but a little life on this trade. Trying to make a small bounce, I guess, but not interested in it fully. I know Andrea called out the SoFi trade from earlier today. Moved up pretty nicely at first, but not really at the highs right now. Palantir. This one's not terrible. It's up over 5% actually as well. It's trying to make a push for the highs here right now. I could easily put this on the list. Let me just see if there's anything else that our students have here in the chat board that look better. Mark calling out Blink, BLNK. Oh yeah, so I saw a workhorse on the watch list. I saw on the gainers list. I saw a ride on the gainers list. So let me just look at those as well. Blink doesn't look bad. Looks good. Workhorse at the highs. Ride, I'm assuming, also at the highs. I don't know if I skipped over these or if they just weren't up enough at the time as I went from top to bottom here. Skipped over ride, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but I'll tell you, all of them look pretty good so far. Like all these are like EV affiliated type of stocks. The Neo Trade, this one's probably the most volatile one that we can look to follow out of the EVs. This one's trying to make a push back up to the highs. It's not exactly there just yet, but it's up over 8%. Chuck says Nikola too. Yeah, that's making a nice squeeze. I know my guy Johannes is pretty happy if he's listening in the trading room. But yeah, I mean, I could just label all EV stocks all together on the watch list. It's all of the ones that we've kind of talked about and looked at so far. From Dan on YouTube asking about Plug. It looks all right. I mean, it's up over 12%. I wish it was making a stronger push up to the highs right now, but it's broken over the last kind of consolidation area from the early afternoon. So, you hope to see this make a better play. I even like the Blink trade and Nikola and Neo and the other EVs more, but this is tradable. Mike saying laser at the high of the HOD. Yeah, it's actually making a pretty sharp, push up in terms of like the move from like 1630 up to 1660. It's got a 27,000 or 26K order on the ask at 64. Is Laser EV affiliated? I don't know off the top of my head. If it's not, I'll at least kind of single it out on the watch list. You know what I mean? I'm going to tag all of the EV stocks together. So it's going to be like kind of a big watch list in the grand scheme of things here, folks, at the end. Will says, yes, it is. All right. Well, I kind of wrote it down already. So it'll kind of be featured then nonetheless. But good call from Mike. All right, folks, I think that just about wraps it up here. I can show the Bitcoin chart. I want to make sure that our students have enough time to click on the link for Fausto's Phase 3 stock course class here. I know that he's already in the class and prepped up, but just show Bitcoin here for anyone that's interested. Just do this quick. All right, so this is practically level 4 for crypto. I tend to show this from time to time. I'm not going to do a full in-depth review as much, but just to say at least here, we ended up seeing Bitcoin begin to pull back off of some big volume that got filled from the bid. Actually, this is the wrong exchange that I wanted to show even, so give me a quick sec. I'm going to flip through Bitfinex here. This is typically what I like to show. But, more or less, we ended up seeing a bunch of volume get filled on the bid over the last week. I actually showed that during the YouTube live streams that I did on Tuesday and Thursdays from the last week or so. Give me a quick sec. I got to finagle this thing. But more or less from there, we ended up seeing Bitcoin begin to pull back a bit further and further. And although the markets are at the highs of the day today, Bitcoin has been on a bit of a slump and dropping off here so far. So the question is, what happens if the SPY and just the overall U.S. markets begin to pull back further? Well, that could lead to Bitcoin beginning to pull back a little bit more. I'm still in on my position from 41,000 and change, 41.7. I showed that a few weeks ago at this point. So I'm not a fan of not only this beginning to pull back, but it ended up spiking up here, and this is like pretty crazy to see. But we ended up seeing one of those big volume price levels that got filled. This was back like a week ago. We ended up seeing that be right around, what was that, 47,550. I was harping on that on one of the live streams that we had. I made it this red line, but more or less, you could just see it right from here. This red volume spike denotes that big volume filled on the bid. For all of our students live inside the cyber group room, quick little teaser question. If there's big volume filled on the bid, it's red on time and sales. Is that buying or selling? It's a simple one here. Big volumes filled on the bid. If we see red on time and sales, is it buying or is it selling? It's selling. So with that, look what's happened. It held as resistance and pulled back. So that's like just the crazy part to see. I mean, just, hey, what works on stocks easily works on crypto. But more or less, I'm watching this over the next day or two. I'll let you folks know, over the next, 24 to 48 hours, just what I do with my position. If I end up taking partial profit, if I end up dumping off the whole thing and look to buy cheaper, we'll kind of react with the market over the next, 1 or 2 days with that. But I'm going to hang on at least, for right now, and then we'll see where it goes. All right, folks, that's all you got here for me, at least across the afternoon. Actually, maybe not yet. One or two more things. I see TKAT trying to make a squeak back up. I caught that from my scanners on Benzinga, but it's not really at the highs just yet. But also at the same time, though, pardon me, there's another stock, YVR, trying to make a squeeze as well. Both of these are kind of related to one another, NFT type of stocks, NFT affiliated type of companies. So YVR, and then there's also TKAT. I'm not fully sold on them just yet. I got to see a little bit more out of TKAT here at first. It was a bit of a false play back from the early parts of last week. Then on Friday, it closed out pretty nice for us and then continued here today. So, I hope to see more buying on this trade. If so, we'll look to kind of follow up on it inside our live trading room. All right, folks. And then I guess lastly at the end, LILM really quick. It's kind of just there at the highs. It actually broke higher as we continue to go through, now pulling back a bit. So I guess it doesn't hurt us to add this stock in particular to our watch list. And then the hour trade, now spotty chart. So this thing looks like crap. Not really doing a whole lot just for us right now. I think we'll kind of pull back a lot further at this point heading into the afternoon. All right, for all of us on YouTube and Facebook Live, if you wanted to join us live inside our trading room, all you got to do is go right down to the link on that banner below to get yourself signed up for a trial inside our live trading room. For all of us live there right now that have access to Fausto's advanced class, the phase 3 stock course, I know that Rich just reposted the link for you there just for you to join. He'll begin right at 3 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, 3 p.m. Eastern time. All right, for all of us otherwise, I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow on YouTube. And then for all of us live inside the Cyber Group room, I'll be back on the mic myself here at 3:30. Take care.
Become a Cyber Group member today. Just click the link below and receive all these amazing products and a world of knowledge for just $9.